This is for Year 12 methods. It's a question that came out of the practice test for differentiation, but it's really about the application of maximum and minimum problems and how to set up the actual equations. So this particular one is what's the rectangle that sits inside of a circle of radius 2. So we're looking at maximum minimum type questions, and if I have a circle, what is the area of the rectangle that can sit inside the circle, and how do I express that area in terms of x? So it's a question about how to set up the problem to get the area of the rectangle. Now, the question actually comes from this section of chapter 10, maximum and minimum problems, where we need an expression in terms of one variable. And it's looking at questions like this. The area of the largest rectangle that fits inside this quadratic. So we put an axis that runs through the middle of the quadratic, so then I can express the area of the rectangle in terms of. Now, in this particular example, I know the equation of the quadratic. It's f4 minus x squared. So this point here can be expressed in terms of x. Therefore, you can get the width of the rectangle and the height of the rectangle in terms of x. So let's go back to my example. I have my circle. And what I'm going to do with that circle is I'm going to place an axis that runs straight through the middle of it. And the reason I'm going to run it straight through the middle of it is so that when I generate my rectangle, so let's say this is the rectangle that I'm going to place inside my circle, and I need to know the area of that rectangle. Because the circle is perfectly symmetrical, then I know that this here is 1/4 of my full circle. And I know that this point here is 0, 0, and that point there will be on the circle. So if I call that x, it's going to be, well, I know my circle has a radius of 2, and I've placed the center of my circle at 0, 0, so x squared plus y squared equals 2 squared, or 4, which means that y squared equals 4 minus x squared. Y will equal the plus or minus square root of 4 minus x squared. Since I'm in the first quadrant, I'm going to use y equals the positive square root of 4 minus x squared, which means that's the square root of 4 minus x squared. I know that this rectangle will have an area which will be length times width, or x times the square root of 4 minus x squared. And in this particular case, the whole rectangle will be 4x square root of 4 minus x squared. So I was able to place an axis in the middle of my circle, and I could get an expression for the rectangle and have its x and its y coordinate both in terms of x, because the largest rectangle will actually have its vertices touching the circle.